Hello, welcome to the channel Why Stories. Enjoy watching.
I don't care that you got promoted and now make $3,000 a month. Hand in your resignation, my mother needs lifelong care, yelled my unemployed husband. And my mother-in-law, feigning illness, was already lying contentedly in our bedroom. But what I did after my husband's words made the two of them scream in terror. And before we begin, please subscribe to the channel and hit like. Enjoy listening. Alicia had always thought of herself as a woman who could take a punch. At 34, she'd gone from junior manager to deputy director of the largest logistics company in the city. Her workday started at 7 a.m. and ended long past midnight, but she never complained. Success demanded sacrifice, and she was ready to make it. That morning, the one when everything changed, Alicia woke to her alarm at 5:30. Her husband Rodrigo was still asleep, sprawled across half the bed. After 5 years of marriage, she was used to her early starts and no longer woke at the sounds from the bathroom. Alicia got herself ready quickly, put on a severe gray suit, and slipped out of the bedroom. In the kitchen, she brewed strong coffee and skimmed the morning news on her tablet. The logistics market was showing steady growth, which was encouraging. Her company was one of the industry leaders, and Alicia knew her contribution to that success wasn't small. Rodrigo worked in the same field, but at a rival firm. His position was more modest, and so was his salary, but Alicia had never made an issue of it. A family is a team, where everyone plays their part. At least, that's what she thought until that day. A surprise awaited Alicia at the office. The CEO, Miguel Vasquez, called her into his office before the workday even began. That was unusual. Important conversations were usually left for the evening. Miguel Vasquez sat behind his massive desk, shuffling some papers. He was an old-school man, used to precision and clarity in everything. When Alicia entered, he looked up and smiled. "Sit down, Alicia. I've got news for you." Alicia took a seat in the leather chair opposite the desk. Her heart was beating faster than usual, but she tried to stay calm. "The board of directors has decided to expand the company," Vasquez began. "We're launching a new division for international transportation. We need someone to head the project." Alicia listened, trying to understand where he was going. A new division meant big opportunities and huge responsibility. "We discussed candidates at length," the director continued, "and we came to a unanimous decision. You're being offered the position of director of the international department." The world seemed to stop. Alicia knew that position existed only in the company's plans, but that they were offering it to her. She'd always been ambitious, but even in her boldest dreams she hadn't counted on rising this fast. "I realize this is unexpected," said Vasquez, noticing her silence. "But you've earned it. Your projects bring the company millions, and your team runs like clockwork. You're exactly the kind of leader we need." Alicia finally found her voice. "It's a great honor. I didn't expect. Expect it or not, it's a fact. The salary is commensurate plus bonuses tied to the department's profits. A private office, a personal assistant, a company car, and of course business trips to Europe to build partnerships." The figure hit her like a bolt of lightning. It was 3 times her current salary and 4 times what Rodrigo made. That kind of money opened entirely new possibilities for them. "When do you need my answer?" she asked. "I need it right now," Vasquez smiled. "I know you'll accept. The paperwork is ready, you can sign." Alicia picked up the pen and signed the contract. Her hand trembled with excitement. Everything was happening so fast her brain could barely process it. "Congratulations, Director Garcia," Miguel Vasquez said solemnly. "You start Monday. Today is Friday, so you've got the weekend to get used to the idea of your new position." Alicia left the office in a state of euphoria. Colleagues congratulated her as they heard the news. The whole day passed in a haze: briefings, meetings, discussions of the upcoming changes. She could hardly wait for evening to share the joy with her husband. At home, Alicia found Rodrigo sitting on the couch with a grim look. He was staring at his phone, furiously typing. When he saw his wife, he looked up, and she realized something had happened. "What's going on?" she asked, kicking off her heels. "I was fired," Rodrigo muttered, without taking his eyes off the screen. Alicia froze in the hallway. Her elation over the promotion vanished in an instant. "Fired? For what?" Rodrigo got up from the couch and went to the kitchen. Alicia followed him. He pulled a beer from the fridge and snapped the can open with a sharp motion. "Layoffs," he said, taking a big swig. "Supposedly cost optimization. Though everyone understands it's just an excuse. But you worked there for 4 years. Your performance was good." "Performance has nothing to do with it," Rodrigo replied bitterly. "It's something else. Remember our mutual acquaintance Sergio Cruz? He's now the deputy director at our company, and he decided to purge the staff of undesirable people. Alicia had known Sergio since university, an unpleasant type who always thought he was smarter than everyone. She and Rodrigo had discussed his quarrelsome nature and ambitions more than once. Are you sure you didn't do anything? No conflicts? Rodrigo looked at her in surprise. What? You don't believe me? You think it's my own fault I got kicked out? No, of course not. I'm just trying to understand the situation. It's simple. Cruz remembered old grudges. Remember how in university we didn't take him onto our project team? Well, he got his revenge 10 years later. Alicia sat down at the kitchen table. The day that had begun so wonderfully was taking a very different turn. Still, a flicker of hope remained inside her now. With her new salary, they could hold out until Rodrigo found a new job. Rodrigo, I have news too, she began carefully. I was promoted today. He lifted his head from his beer. Promoted? To what position? Director of the International Department. Rodrigo was silent for a few seconds, processing the information. Then he nodded. Well, at least somebody's day turned out well. There was neither joy nor congratulations in his voice, only bitterness and a kind of resentment. Alicia had expected a completely different reaction. Rodrigo, that's great. Now we don't have to worry about money while you're looking for a new job. Yes, very convenient, he hissed. The director wife will support her unemployed husband. Don't be ridiculous. We're a family, we should support each other. But Rodrigo had already gotten up and headed to the bedroom. Alicia stayed sitting in the kitchen, trying to figure out what was happening. The day of her triumph was turning into some kind of nightmare. In the evening they hardly spoke. Rodrigo went to the computer, supposedly to search for new openings, and Alicia tried to do some housework. But her thoughts kept returning to her husband's strange reaction to her success. The next day Alicia woke earlier than usual. She needed the weekend to prepare for her new position, to study materials on the international market. Rodrigo was still asleep, and she decided not to wake him. Over breakfast she was scrolling through industry news on her tablet when she heard the front door open. Strange, Rodrigo was in the bedroom. There was no one else in the apartment. Alicia went into the hallway and saw Dolores, her mother-in-law. The woman was standing, leaning against the wall, her face pale and her hair disheveled. In her hands was a small overnight bag. Dolores, what happened? How did you get in here? Her mother-in-law lifted eyes full of suffering. Alicia, dear, I feel very ill. My heart hurts terribly, my blood pressure is spiking. I barely made it to you. But how did you get in? You don't have a key. Keys? The mother-in-law pressed a hand to her chest. Rodrigo gave me a spare set in case something happened. And today I woke up and realized I might not live till morning. Alicia helped her mother-in-law into the living room and sat her on the sofa. Dolores really did look unwell, but something in her behavior was unsettling. Usually she was energetic and could spend hours talking about her problems with the neighbors or complaining about the government. We should call an ambulance, Alicia said. No, the mother-in-law waved her hands. Doctors only make things worse. I'm allergic to all their medicines. I just need to lie down and rest. At that moment Rodrigo came out of the bedroom. Seeing his mother, he wasn't surprised, which Alicia found strange. Mom, you're already here? How do you feel? Bad, son, very bad. But you know I'm strong. I'll survive. Alicia looked at her husband. You knew she was coming? Of course. She called yesterday complaining about her heart. I told her that if it got really bad, she should come to us. And you didn't think to warn me? What is there to warn about? Mother got sick and came to her son. Perfectly normal. Dolores moaned softly and pressed a hand to her heart. Oh, I feel awful. May I lie down? My legs won't hold me. Rodrigo immediately rushed to help his mother. They headed to the bedroom, and Alicia was left alone in the living room. Something about the situation was wrong, but she couldn't tell what. After a while she went into the bedroom to check on her mother-in-law. Dolores was lying in their bed, covered with a blanket. Her face was indeed pale, but her eyes were glittering suspiciously bright. Alicia, she called weakly. Could you bring me some water? And get my pills from my bag. Alicia brought water and began searching for the pills in her mother-in-law's bag. The bag was stuffed with various things: cosmetics, documents, some papers. Among all this she found a bottle of pills. But when she took it in her hands, she noticed the manufacturing date. The expiration date had passed a year and a half ago. Strange that a sick woman would carry expired medicine. Alicia looked more closely at the label. The drug was for headaches, a common painkiller, not a heart medication. Dolores, are these really your pills? It says they're for headaches. Her mother-in-law quickly reached out her hand. Yes, yes, those are them. My head hurts too, along with my heart. Give them here. She snatched the bottle and hid it under the pillow so quickly that Alicia found it suspicious. A healthy woman wouldn't stash medicine with such haste. But something else surprised her even more. When Dolores reached for the pills, Alicia noticed a new watch on her wrist. Expensive, clearly gold, with a gleaming bracelet. Where would a pensioner with a small pension get such an expensive thing? Nice watch, Alicia remarked cautiously. Dolores immediately hid her hand under the blanket. An old watch, left from my husband. But Alicia was sure she had never seen that watch on her mother-in-law before. And Dolores's husband, Rodrigo's father, had been a simple mechanic and could never have afforded such costly jewelry. The rest of the day passed in a strange atmosphere. Dolores lay in the bedroom, periodically groaning and asking for water, food, or attention. Rodrigo fussed over her like a wind-up toy, fulfilling her every whim. And Alicia watched this performance, more and more convinced that something wasn't right. In the evening, when her mother-in-law fell asleep, Alicia tried to talk to her husband. Rodrigo, is your mother really sick? It seems to me she's pretending. What nonsense are you talking? He protested. Can't you see how pale she is? I saw her wearing a new, expensive watch. Where did she get it? No idea. And what does it matter anyway? My mother is ill, she needs help, and you're playing detective. I just want to understand. There's nothing to understand, Rodrigo cut her off sharply. Mother will stay with us until she gets better. Period. There was such finality in his tone that Alicia realized arguing was pointless. But her suspicions only grew stronger. The next day, Sunday, Alicia decided to observe her mother-in-law's behavior. Dolores kept acting like she was gravely ill, but Alicia noticed a few odd things. First, when no one was watching, her mother-in-law moved around the apartment quite briskly. Alicia happened to see her walk quickly to the bathroom, but the moment she was within Rodrigo's line of sight, her gait became slow and unsteady. Second, the patient had an excellent appetite. She ate a full plate of gazpacho, a tortilla, and even asked for seconds. For someone with a heart problem, that was a lot. But the strangest part began in the evening. Alicia noticed that Rodrigo and his mother kept whispering about something. As soon as she entered the room, they fell silent and put on innocent faces. After dinner, Rodrigo escorted his mother to the bedroom and stayed in the living room. Alicia went to the kitchen to wash the dishes, but after a while she heard muffled voices from the bedroom. She crept to the door and listened. Everything is going according to plan, Dolores said in a normal, healthy voice. The main thing now is not to rush. Mom, are you sure this will work? That was Rodrigo's voice. Of course it will. I know these career women. They're ready to do anything for their success. But family values are at the very bottom for them. We'll press on pity and a sense of duty. And what if she sees through your act? She won't. She's too busy with her new position to keep a close eye on me. And you, most importantly, stick to my story and don't let anything slip. A chill ran down Alicia's back. So her suspicions were right, her mother-in-law really was faking. But why? And what was this plan she mentioned? She quietly stepped away from the door and went back to the kitchen. Her thoughts were tangled, and anger was flaring in her chest. She was being deceived, and by two people. Her husband and mother-in-law were up to something against her. But Alicia still didn't know exactly what they were planning. She needed to find out, but carefully. She decided to watch a bit longer and try to gather more information. When Rodrigo came out of the bedroom, his behavior struck her as odd, too. He avoided eye contact, answered her questions in monosyllables, and seemed preoccupied. He had never been this secretive before. Rodrigo, are you going to look for a job tomorrow? Alicia asked as they were getting ready for bed. Tomorrow's Monday, all the HR people will be swamped. Better to start on Wednesday, and for now I need to look after Mom. But she said she was feeling better. She said that, but I can see she's unwell. No, I can't leave her alone right now. Alicia lay down on the sofa in the living room. The bedroom was occupied by her mother-in-law. Thoughts kept spinning in her head, keeping her from sleep. Something very strange was happening in her life. Yesterday she'd been a happy woman who got a long-awaited promotion. And today she felt like she was in someone else's home, where intrigues were being woven against her. On Monday morning, Alicia got ready for work. It was her first day in the new position, and she wanted to make a good impression. But Rodrigo was already dressed. Where are you going so early? She asked in surprise. To the clinic with Mom. She slept badly all night, complained of pain. We need to show her to a doctor. Why didn't you wake me? I'd have gone too. What for? It's your first day at the new job. You shouldn't get distracted by unrelated matters. Unrelated matters. Alicia couldn't believe her ears. He called his mother's illness unrelated for her, yet he himself was ready to drop the job search to fuss over his mother. Then call me when you're done. Tell me what the doctor said. Of course, I'll definitely call. Alicia left for work with a heavy heart. Something was definitely wrong, but she still couldn't grasp what. The only thing that comforted her was the workday ahead. At least in the office she felt in her element. The new position turned out to be even more interesting than she expected. She had her own office with panoramic windows overlooking the entire city. Her personal assistant proved to be a capable young man who quickly brought her up to speed on current affairs. She spent the whole day studying documents, department development plans, and meeting her future subordinates. Alicia forgot all about the problems at home, fully immersing herself in work. Only toward evening did she remember that Rodrigo still hadn't called. She dialed his number herself. "How is it? What did the doctor say?" "The doctor." Rodrigo's voice sounded uncertain. "The doctor said she needs a full workup. Ordered a bunch of tests." "And what exactly is wrong with her heart?" "He can't say for sure yet. We need to wait for the test results." Alicia felt he was lying. There was a strained note in his voice, as if he were making up answers on the fly. "And when will the tests be ready?" "In a week." The doctor said bed rest and complete quiet for now. So her mother-in-law would be lying in their bedroom for another week. Alicia groaned inwardly. One night on the sofa had been hard enough, and now a whole week. At home the scene was the same. Dolores lay in bed with a suffering look, and Rodrigo fussed around her. Alicia greeted her mother-in-law and went to the kitchen to make dinner. At the table Rodrigo talked about their trip to the doctor, but his story sounded unconvincing. Too many details about how they got to the clinic and too few about the appointment itself. "Which clinic did you go to?" Alicia asked. "The city clinic on Bolivar Avenue." "Strange. I thought your mother was registered at the clinic near her home." "The lines there are huge," Rodrigo replied quickly. "We decided to go to a different one." After dinner Alicia again heard muffled conversations from the bedroom. This time she decided to eavesdrop more carefully. She went to the door and pressed her ear to the keyhole. "She doesn't suspect a thing," Dolores was saying. "She bought the story about the doctor's visit. And what if she wants to talk to the doctor herself?" "She won't want to. She can see I'm sick. Why would she need extra trouble? She's got a new job. Her mind is on other things." "Mom, are you sure the plan will work?" "I'm still a little scared." "There's nothing scary about it. We just need to see it through. She's proud, independent, thinks she can do everything herself. But we'll show her that no one survives without family." "What if she just throws us out?" "She won't. She'd have to live with that afterward. Neighbors, colleagues, they'll all judge her. What kind of wife would she be if she kicked her sick mother-in-law out onto the street? No, she won't dare." Alicia stepped away from the door, feeling indignation boil inside her. So they really were plotting something against her. And that plan was somehow tied to her new job. She went into the living room, where her bedding was laid out on the sofa. Rodrigo sat at the computer, supposedly browsing job listings, but the screen showed some forum page. "What are you reading?" she asked, coming closer. Rodrigo quickly minimized the window. "Nothing special. Tips on job hunting." But Alicia had managed to glimpse the headline on the screen, something about family relationships and generational conflicts. A strange topic for someone looking for work. That night Alicia couldn't fall asleep for a long time. The events of the last few days spun in her head, forming a troubling picture. Rodrigo lost his job the very day she got promoted. Her mother-in-law suddenly fell ill and moved into their home. Her husband refused to look for work and spent all his time with his mother. On Tuesday morning Alicia woke to sounds from the bedroom. Dolores was saying something to Rodrigo, but when Alicia listened more closely, the conversation stopped at once. A few minutes later Rodrigo came out of the bedroom already dressed. "Heading to the clinic again?" Alicia asked. "No, I need to go to the pharmacy for medicine. Mom gave me a list of what she needs." He showed a slip of paper covered in tiny handwriting. Alicia glanced at the list and was surprised. It included the most expensive heart medications, many of them prescription only. "Do you have the prescriptions?" "The doctor gave them yesterday. Everything's in order." After he left, Alicia decided to talk to her mother-in-law. Entering the bedroom, she saw Dolores sitting up in bed, closely studying some documents. Seeing her daughter-in-law, she quickly hid the papers under the pillow and put on a show of weakness. "Oh, Alicia, I feel so awful. I'm dizzy, my vision's going dark." "Dolores, what were those documents you hid?" "What documents?" her mother-in-law asked innocently. "I didn't hide anything. I saw them." You were reading something when I came in. Oh, come now, dear. Everything swimming before my eyes were documents. You must have imagined it. But Alicia had definitely seen papers in her hands, and she looked perfectly healthy while reading, sitting upright, eyes clear and focused. Tell me, which clinic exactly did you go to yesterday? What's the doctor's name? Dolores hesitated. The doctor. The name. Oh, my memory's gotten so bad. I don't remember. Maybe you could show me the prescriptions he wrote? Rodrigo took the prescriptions. He went to the pharmacy. Each answer sounded less and less convincing. Alicia knew they were stringing her along, but she still didn't know why. At work she tried to focus, but her thoughts kept drifting back home. During her lunch break she decided to test her suspicions. She dialed the clinic on Bolivar Avenue and asked to be connected to the cardiologist. Good afternoon, she said to the nurse. Dolores Garcia came to you yesterday. I'm her daughter-in-law and wanted to clarify the doctor's recommendations. Let me check our records, the nurse replied. Garcia. Yesterday. No, there's no such entry. No one by that name saw the cardiologist yesterday. Maybe the general practitioner? No, not that either. We keep strict records of all patients. Alicia hung up with a heavy feeling. So Rodrigo had lied about the doctor's visit. But why? And where had they spent the day? That evening at home she tried to get Rodrigo talking. How did it go with the medicines? I bought everything. Well, not everything, some drugs were out of stock. I'll go to another pharmacy tomorrow. Can I see the prescriptions? Why do you need them? You don't know anything about medicine. I'm just curious what the doctor prescribed. Rodrigo faltered. The prescriptions. I left them in the car. I'll show you tomorrow. One lie followed another. Alicia no longer doubted she was being deceived. But why did they need this? The answer came unexpectedly. Late at night, as Alicia was getting ready for bed, she heard not muffled whispers from the bedroom but loud voices. Dolores was clearly off guard and speaking in her normal tone. Rodrigo, you understand we can't delay. The longer we drag this out, the more likely she is to suspect something. Mom, I'm not ready yet. I need time. Time for what? We've gone over everything. You'll stay home for a month and get used to your new role, and she'll work and bring in the money. What's so hard about that? But she's smart. Sooner or later she'll figure it out. She won't if you behave correctly. The main thing is, don't look for a job. Let her get used to you being a house husband and her being the breadwinner. Alicia froze at the door. So that was it. Rodrigo wasn't planning to look for work at all. He intended to stay home and live off her salary. And his mother's illness was just a cover to justify his idleness. And what if she forces me to look for a job? Rodrigo went on. Then we move to phase 2. I'll worsen my illness, say I need constant care, and you'll be forced to stay home to look after your sick mother. What wife would object to that? Mom, but that's deception. It's not deception, it's a survival strategy. Do you think she'll stay with you if she's making that kind of money and you have nothing? She'll find a more successful man and toss you aside like something she doesn't need. Alicia isn't like that. They're all like that, son. As soon as they feel financially independent, they start looking down on their husbands. No, it's better to set everything straight from the start. Alicia quietly stepped away from the door, burning with outrage inside. So that had been the plan all along. Rodrigo had deliberately lost his job, and his mother was faking illness so he could avoid working. But the worst part was that Rodrigo agreed to the plan. The man she had lived with for 5 years, whom she trusted, turned out to be capable of such deception. The next few days became a real ordeal for Alicia. She knew the truth but couldn't prove it. And Rodrigo and Dolores kept up their performance, growing bolder by the day. Rodrigo stopped mentioning the job hunt altogether. To all her questions he answered that he couldn't leave his sick mother. And Dolores demanded more and more attention and care. Alicia, she would say every morning, could you stop by the pharmacy after work? I need new medicine. Rodrigo, she would ask her son, could you make me a special diet soup? I can't stomach regular food. Alicia, she would complain in the evenings, could you walk more quietly? Every sound makes my heart race. Alicia understood they were trying to push her to the breaking point. They wanted her to explode and throw her mother-in-law out, so they could brand her heartless afterward. But Alicia wasn't the type to take the bait. She decided to play their game but by her own rules. For now, she pretended to suspect nothing, while she quietly plotted her countermove. Work was going great. The international department was ramping up, and the first big clients had appeared. Alicia felt in her element, her subordinates respected her and management valued her. At home, though, a different life awaited her. Rodrigo had fully turned into a homemaker, but did it with the air of someone making a huge sacrifice for his ailing mother. Dolores demanded attention around the clock, giving neither her son nor her daughter-in-law a moment's peace. Alicia had been sleeping on the living room sofa for 2 weeks. Her back hurt, she wasn't getting enough sleep, and her colleagues had started to notice how tired she looked. Still, she endured it, preparing for a decisive step. One evening, when Rodrigo had gone to the store and Dolores thought Alicia was in the kitchen, Alicia overheard her mother-in-law on the phone. Yes, everything is going according to plan," Dolores was saying to someone. "Rodrigo is staying home, she's working. A little longer and he'll forget about the idea of work altogether. Of course she suspects something, but she can't prove anything. And even if she figures it out, what will she do? Throw her sick mother-in-law out? People will point fingers at her. No, she won't dare get a divorce. She's 34, she's not getting any younger, and with that salary she can support the whole family. Rodrigo won't need to work, he'll keep me company." "What? Kids? Don't be silly, girlfriend. She's got no time for kids right now, career comes first. And if she does want them, let her have them. On her salary we can hire a nanny." Alicia listened and felt something finally snap inside. So they planned to turn her into a cash cow who would support the entire family, including her mother-in-law. And Rodrigo was to become a mama's boy fully provided for. Worst of all was how her mother-in-law discussed her age and ability to have children as if they were trivial. To them she wasn't a person, just a source of income. That evening Alicia made her final decision. Enough. Time to end this farce and show the two of them what a woman pushed to the limit can do. The next morning Alicia woke with a clear head and a firm resolve to get to the bottom of things. She was done playing the naive wife who believes every word from her husband and his mother. It was time to act like a real detective. First, she decided to check their family finances. She and Rodrigo had a joint account where her salary was deposited and from which they paid all their expenses. Alicia had always trusted her husband with money matters, but now she wanted to monitor the transactions herself. Opening the mobile banking app during her lunch break, she found several oddities. Over the past 2 weeks, fairly large amounts had been withdrawn in cash. At the same time, their usual spending on groceries and utilities hadn't changed. Alicia frowned as she studied the statement. That much in 2 weeks was huge for their normal budget. What could they have spent it on? Even the most expensive medications for her mother-in-law couldn't cost that much. She called Rodrigo. "Rodrigo, what did you spend the money from our account on? I'm seeing some fairly large cash withdrawals." Rodrigo hesitated. "Money? Oh right. That was for Mom's medicine and various medical procedures. You know how expensive treatment is these days. That much in just 2 weeks? What kind of procedures are that expensive?" "Well, an ultrasound, an EKG, lab tests. It all adds up to a big amount." Alicia knew the prices for medical services. Even a full workup at an expensive private clinic didn't cost that much. Rodrigo was definitely lying. "Can I see the receipts for those procedures?" "Receipts? Yes, of course. I left them at home. I'll show you tonight." Sure, Alicia thought. Just like the prescriptions he'd also promised to show but never did. That evening she tried to get the truth, but Rodrigo kept wriggling. The receipts were lost, or left in the car, or Dolores had accidentally thrown them out. Each new excuse sounded less convincing than the last. Meanwhile, Dolores kept up her act. She complained of heart pain, asked for special food, demanded silence and rest. But Alicia had learned to spot the moments when her mother-in-law forgot herself. For example, when Dolores thought no one was watching, she moved around the apartment quite spryly. And once Alicia caught her in the bathroom, studying her reflection in the mirror and fixing her hair. A seriously ill heart patient was unlikely to be fussing over such things. But the most interesting discovery happened by accident. Alicia was looking for an old handbag in the closet when she came across a bag of receipts on a shelf among Rodrigo's things. Curiosity got the better of her, and she decided to see what had been purchased. The receipts were from an upscale beauty salon, facial massage, manicure, hair coloring, cosmetic treatments. The total matched exactly the amount withdrawn from the account a week earlier, and the timestamps on the receipts coincided with the day Rodrigo had supposedly taken his mother for medical procedures. Alicia felt indignation boil inside her. So while she was working and earning the money, her mother-in-law was spending it on cosmetic treatments at an elite salon, and Rodrigo was covering for those expenses, passing them off as medical care. She photographed the receipts with her phone and put the bag back. Now she had proof of the deception, but she decided not to rush the exposure. She needed to gather more facts. The next day, Alicia took a day off and decided to tail her husband and mother-in-law. In the morning, she got ready for work as usual, said goodbye, and left. But instead of going to the office, she drove home and parked in the neighboring courtyard with a good view of their building's entrance. Around 11 a.m., Rodrigo and Dolores came out of the building. Her mother-in-law walked perfectly normally, with no sign of weakness or illness. She was well-dressed, coiffed, and looked much younger than her years. Alicia followed them in her car. They didn't go to a clinic but to a shopping mall. There, her mother-in-law went into an expensive clothing boutique while Rodrigo waited outside. Alicia watched Dolores try on dresses, pick out accessories, chat with the salespeople. There wasn't a trace of illness. Then they went to a cafe, where her mother-in-law cheerfully polished off a large plate of seafood pasta and had coffee with a pastry. A bad heart clearly didn't stop her from enjoying rich food, which heart patients are usually told to avoid. Alicia snapped several photos on her phone through the cafe window. They showed her mother-in-law chatting happily with her son, laughing, and looking absolutely healthy. After lunch, they went to another beauty salon. This time, my mother-in-law signed up for a massage and some cosmetic procedures. Rodrigo waited for her again, sitting in the car. Alicia pulled up closer and heard him talking on the phone. Yeah, everything's going according to plan. She doesn't suspect a thing. Of course, Mom's happy. She's already used to this life. No, I'm not going to look for a job. Why would I, if we can live on her salary? Alicia's heart skipped a beat. So Rodrigo was discussing their family situation with someone, and that someone knew all about their plan. Yeah, she'll slave away at work and will relax at home. Fair, considering how many years Mom devoted to me. Sure, she grumbles sometimes, but she's putting up with it for now. What else can she do? Getting divorced at her age would only make things worse. Alicia clenched her fists. Not only were they deceiving her, they were discussing her with outsiders, telling people what a fool she was for supporting a deadbeat husband and a mother-in-law pretending to be sick. She thinks I lost my job by accident, but I deliberately drove that cruise into a rage. I knew he'd fire me if I mouthed off to him. Yeah, there was a risk. But Mom said with a wife who makes that kind of money, it's worth the gamble. There was the fourth plot twist Alicia had been waiting for. Rodrigo had engineered his own dismissal. It wasn't bad luck or an old acquaintance's grudge. It was a pre-planned operation. Alicia remembered the evening her husband told her about the clash with Cruz, how he complained about injustice and his former classmates' vindictiveness. Turns out he was just playing a role to win her sympathy. Yeah, Mom says women like her love to play strong and independent, but deep down they want someone to take care of them. She'll support the family and feel needed. Sure, she'll whine at first, but she'll get used to it. Alicia couldn't listen any longer. She started the car and drove off, feeling a storm of emotions raging inside her. Anger, hurt, disappointment, all twisted into one painful knot. So all this time they'd taken her for a fool, easy to deceive. The husband she loved and trusted was a calculating liar. And the mother-in-law she treated with respect was just a common grifter. What cut deepest was how they discussed her age and prospects for a personal life as if she weren't a person, just an object to be manipulated. That evening at home, Alicia barely held herself together. Dolores lay in bed, feigning weakness after a hard day. Rodrigo fussed over her, bringing tea and pills. "How's your mom?" Alicia asked, struggling to keep her voice even. "Bad," Rodrigo sighed. "We had to rush to the doctor today. Her condition got worse." "Which doctor?" "A cardiologist. He prescribed new procedures." Liar. Alicia had seen where they'd spent the day. There hadn't been a doctor in sight. "And what did the doctor say about the test results?" Rodrigo hesitated. "The tests? Not all of them are ready yet. We have to wait." "I see. And how much did today's procedures cost?" "I don't remember exactly." So while his mother spent money at a beauty salon, Rodrigo was preparing a cover story for his wife. "Rodrigo, aren't you going to look for a job?" Alicia asked bluntly. "How can I look for a job when Mom's so unwell? I can't leave her alone." "But she'll get better sooner or later." The doctor said the treatment would be long. Maybe several months, maybe more. Several months of carefree living at her expense. Alicia realized they were counting on the long haul. The next day she took another day off and went to Rodrigo's former workplace. She needed the truth about his firing. She still had contacts at the company she could talk to. Marina from HR greeted Alicia warmly. They'd known each other for years and sometimes chatted at company parties. "Hi, Alicia. How are you? I heard you got promoted. Congratulations." "Thanks, Marina. I have a question about Rodrigo. Tell me how his dismissal really happened." Marina looked surprised. "Didn't he tell you?" There was a whole scandal. He did, but very briefly. He says Cruz took revenge on him for old grudges. Old grudges? Marina laughed. Rodrigo provoked it himself. He marched into Cruz's office and kicked up a full-on scene yelling that the new management didn't understand anything, the company was going downhill, and all the decisions were wrong. Seriously? Oh yes. Half the office heard him shouting. And when Cruz tried to calm him down, Rodrigo called him a loser and said with leadership like that it was better to quit. And Cruz? What could he do? Nobody tolerates that kind of insolence. He fired Rodrigo for violating workplace discipline. And Rodrigo didn't even try to apologize or smooth things over. Alicia listened, feeling the puzzle finally click into place. Rodrigo had indeed engineered his own firing, deliberately insulting his boss, knowing it would sever the employment relationship. Marina, do you get the sense it was all premeditated? You know, now that you mention it, yes, there was something odd about his behavior. Rodrigo usually avoided conflict, and then suddenly he went off the rails. And one more thing, about a week before the blow-up he was asking about the severance package for terminations. The final brushstroke in the picture of deceit. Rodrigo had calculated all the risks and benefits in advance. He knew he'd get severance, and then he could live off his wife's salary. Do you happen to know how he's looking for a job now? Alicia asked. He isn't, Marina said, surprised. I saw him last week at the mall with some woman. He looked very pleased with life. I even thought he'd found a new job. He was so relaxed. The woman at the mall was his mother. Alicia remembered them shopping together while she was at the office. On the way home, Alicia turned over the information she'd gathered. The picture of the scam was complete. Rodrigo had intentionally gotten himself fired, his mother was faking illness, and together they planned to turn her into the sole source of income for the entire family. But the worst was yet to come. That evening, as Alicia prepared to sleep on the sofa, she heard a conversation from the bedroom. This time they were speaking loudly enough, apparently assuming she was already asleep. Mom, how much longer do we keep up this charade? Rodrigo asked. Until she fully gets used to her role as breadwinner, Dolores replied. I think another month or two and she'll be completely broken. And if she doesn't break, she will. She has no choice. Getting divorced at her age means ending up alone. And with that salary she can support the whole family without straining herself. But I still feel uncomfortable. I'm a man, I should be working. Nonsense. Times have changed. Let the women work and the men rest. You and I have earned a peaceful life. And if she demands that I look for a job, then I'll worsen my illness. I'll say I need constant care, and you'll be forced to stay home. What wife would make her husband abandon his sick mother? Mom, do you think that's fair to her? What's fair? She doesn't truly love you. If she did, she wouldn't be chasing a career, she'd be at home having children. As it is, let her at least be useful. Alicia squeezed her eyes shut in pain. So they thought she didn't love her husband just because she wanted to work and develop professionally. In their view, a woman should stay home and bear children. If she chose a career, she automatically became a bad wife. And what about kids? Rodrigo went on. She wants a child. Not now. First let her get used to supporting us, then we'll see. With a child it'll be even harder for her to get rid of us. So you think we should control her reproductive plans? Of course. We depend on her financially now. She should take our interests into account. Alicia couldn't listen to any more. She quietly got up from the sofa and stepped out onto the balcony. The evening was cool, and the fresh air helped her calm down. So they were planning to control her whole life, not only to force her to support them, but also to decide when she would have children. To turn her into a slave who worked for the whole family and had no right to her own desires. Alicia realized she couldn't tolerate this any longer. It was time to act decisively. She knew the truth, she had proof of the deception. It was time to show those two that she wouldn't be so easily handled. Tomorrow she would start preparing a counterstrike, and it would be crushing. The next morning Alicia woke with crystal clarity. She knew today everything would change. No more games, no more pretense. It was time to show those two con artists who ran the house. As she got ready for work, she said goodbye to her husband and mother-in-law as usual. Dolores was, as always, putting on her morning ailments, and Rodrigo bustled around her with a show of concern. Alicia looked at the performance and barely suppressed a smirk. At the office, the first thing she did was go to the company's corporate attorney. Ana Rodriguez was an experienced family law specialist who had helped employees through difficult situations more than once. Ana, I have a delicate question. Can I evict my husband and his mother from my apartment without their consent? The lawyer studied her. Tell me more. Is the apartment in your name? Yes, I'm the sole owner. I inherited it from my parents before the marriage. My husband is only registered there. In that case, you have full rights to dispose of your property. Registration doesn't confer ownership. You can evict your husband and certainly his relatives at any time. And if he resists, then go to court. With your documents, it will be straightforward. But first try to resolve it peacefully. Often it's enough simply to notify them of your intent. Alicia thanked the lawyer and returned to her office. She had a plan, and now she knew the law was on her side. It was time to prepare the final act of this sordid comedy. On her lunch break, she went to a notary and executed a power of attorney for managing the apartment. Then she stopped by the bank and opened a new personal account, transferring half the family savings to it. That was her money, honestly earned. On her way back from lunch, Alicia got a message from Rodrigo. Mom's feeling bad again. Had to call an ambulance. We're at the hospital now. Interesting, she thought. So they decided to turn up the pressure. She was ready for any move. She called Rodrigo. What happened? Which hospital are you at? City Hospital No. 3. Mom lost consciousness, we had to rush over. I'm coming. Alicia did go to the hospital, but not out of worry for her mother-in-law. She needed to see with her own eyes how far they were willing to take their deceit. In the admissions area, she easily found Rodrigo, sitting in the corridor with a worried look, typing on his phone. How's your mom? Alicia asked, coming up to him. The doctors are examining her. They say it's serious. She may need to be hospitalized. What exactly happened? She felt ill after breakfast, sharp heart pain, then she passed out. I panicked and called an ambulance right away. Alicia nodded and went over to the nurse. Good afternoon. I'm Dolores Garcia's daughter. How is she? The nurse checked the log. Garcia. Yes. She's already been examined. No serious issues detected. Her blood pressure is a bit high, but nothing critical. The doctor recommends home care and follow-up with her primary physician. So hospitalization isn't necessary? No, there are no indications for inpatient treatment. Alicia thanked the nurse and returned to Rodrigo. He was still acting the anxious son. What did the doctors say? He asked. That your mother is perfectly healthy and can go home. Rodrigo's face changed. But how? She fainted. Rodrigo, enough. I know everything. He looked at her in surprise. What do you know? Everything. About your firing, which you provoked yourself. About the beauty salons instead of treatment. About your plan to turn me into a cash cow for the whole family. Rodrigo turned pale. What are you talking about? What beauty salons? Alicia took out her phone and showed him photos of the receipts. These salons, manicure, hair coloring. Very beneficial for cardiac patients, isn't it? Rodrigo stayed silent, realizing he'd been caught. And these photos, Alicia continued, showing the shots from the cafe. Your mother cheerfully having lunch at the mall. Not exactly a dying woman, is she? Alicia, I can explain. There's nothing to explain. I've figured it all out. You decided to turn me into a provider for you and your mother. Very convenient. The wife works while you relax and spend her money. That's not true. I just what? Just decided you could fool me? That I'd put up with your manipulation and pay for your little amusements? At that moment, Dolores came out of the doctor's office. She looked perfectly healthy and even a bit embarrassed. Alicia, she began in a weak voice, I'm so glad you came. I felt so awful. Dolores, the doctor said you're absolutely healthy. You can drop the act. The mother-in-law faltered. What act? I really did feel unwell. So unwell that you spent all day yesterday in beauty salons? Alicia showed the photos. Here you are at a cafe eating seafood pasta. Very diet for a heart patient. Dolores and Rodrigo exchanged glances. They understood their plan had collapsed. Fine, Alicia said. Since there's no need to pretend anymore, let's go home and discuss our situation openly. The drive home passed in heavy silence. Rodrigo kept his eyes on the road. Dolores sat in the back, carefully avoiding Alicia's gaze. At home, Alicia went straight to the bedroom and packed her mother-in-law's things into a bag. Dolores watched, indignant. What are you doing? Those are my things. Exactly. Your things which you're taking back to your place. The show is over. Back to my place? I'm ill, I can't be alone. Dolores, you're healthier than I am. The doctors confirmed it. Stop the charade. Rodrigo came into the bedroom. Alicia, what's going on? Where are you taking Mom's things? To her home. Where they belong. But she's sick. She's faking. And you know it perfectly well, because you're part of the performance. Rodrigo realized denial was pointless. Alicia knew too much. Okay, he said. Let's say Mom exaggerated a little. But is that a reason to throw her out on the street? The reason is your deception, your attempt to turn me into the family's source of income. What are you talking about? What source of income? Alicia took out her phone and played a recording. She'll support the family and feel needed. Sure, she'll whine at first, but then she'll get used to it. Rodrigo's voice sounded from the speaker. Both of them froze. They hadn't expected Alicia to record their conversations. Let the women work and the men rest. You and I have earned a peaceful life, came Dolores's voice next. Where did you get those recordings? Rodrigo whispered. I recorded your late-night talks through the wall. The soundproofing here is terrible. You had very interesting plans to turn me into a slave who works for the whole family. Dolores tried to seize the initiative. Alicia, you misunderstood. We were just discussing options. Options for enslaving me? No, I understood perfectly. Not enslaving, mutual support. A family should help each other. A family where one person works while two others live off her and even plan to control her private life? That's not family, that's parasitism. Rodrigo sat on the edge of the bed. Alicia, I understand you're upset, but we can talk it out, find a compromise. What compromise? You've sat at home for a month and haven't looked for work. Your mother spends my money at beauty salons. You two discuss when I should have children based on your financial interests. What kind of compromise is that? Calmly, Alicia took pre-prepared documents from her bag. Here's a notice of divorce and a demand to vacate my apartment. As the property owner, I have the right to decide who lives here. What? Rodrigo jumped up. Are you out of your mind? This is our home. No, Rodrigo. This is my home. The apartment belongs only to me. I inherited it from my parents. You're merely registered here, which gives you no ownership rights. But we're husband and wife. By law, everything acquired in marriage. This apartment wasn't acquired in marriage, it was inherited by me. I have all the documents. And now I also have grounds for divorce and for demanding you vacate the premises, your fraud and attempted financial exploitation. Dolores sprang from the bed. You can't kick us out. We're family. You're con artists who tried to deceive me. There's no family between us. Rodrigo tried to take the papers from Alicia, but she pulled her hand back. Those are copies. The originals are with the lawyer. If you don't leave voluntarily, it goes to court and then it'll be much worse. Alicia, wait. Rodrigo reached for her hand. Let's talk calmly. I admit we were wrong, but we can fix this. Fix it? Alicia pulled her hand free. How do you fix a month of lies? How do you fix the fact that you deliberately lost your job to live at my expense? I'll find a new job. I promise. You promise? Like you promise to love and support me? To be honest, your promises are worthless. Dolores played her last card. Alicia, what if I really do get sick? If I genuinely become ill? Could you live with yourself, knowing you threw a sick old woman out? Alicia looked at her with icy calm. Dolores, you are a healthy 59-year-old woman. You have your own apartment, a pension, and full capacity to manage your life. You can live perfectly well on your own. But I'm Rodrigo's mother. Doesn't that mean anything? Not to me, especially after you tried to turn me into a cash cow for your son. Rodrigo circled the bed and stood in front of Alicia. Fine, Mom will leave. But I'm your husband. You can't kick me out. I can. And I will. In 3 days you won't be living here. What about our marriage? What marriage? A union where one partner deceives the other and plans to live off her. That's not a marriage, that's a scam. So you want a divorce? Yes. And the sooner, the better. Rodrigo sank back onto the bed and grabbed his head. Alicia, I didn't mean. Mom talked me into it. She said everyone does this. Don't pin it all on your mother. You're a grown man who made his own choices. You chose deceit over honesty. But I love you. Love me? Alicia laughed bitterly. You plan to turn me into a slave? To control my life, my plans about children? Is that what you call love? I wanted what was best. Best for whom? For yourself and your mother? Did you think about me at all? Rodrigo was silent, knowing there was nothing to say. Dolores tried again. Alicia, maybe we really did act wrongly, but we can fix it. Start over with a clean slate. Dolores, do you know what shocked me most about your plans? Alicia turned to her mother-in-law. Not the deception, not the desire to live at my expense. It was that you planned to control my ability to have children. We were just thinking. You thought you had the right to decide when I should give birth based on your financial interests. You wanted to turn me into a machine for earning money and producing children. That's not true. Oh, it is. I heard your conversation. With a child, it'll be even harder for her to get rid of us, your words. Dolores lowered her eyes, realizing excuses were useless. Now get out of my house, Alicia said firmly. You have 3 days. If you don't leave voluntarily, I'll call the police. Alicia, wait, Rodrigo sprang up. What if I tell everyone how heartless you are, that you threw out your husband and a sick mother-in-law? Alicia smirked. Go ahead. I have recordings of your conversations, receipts for the beauty salons, and doctor's statements saying your mother is healthy. Who do you think they'll believe? Rodrigo realized threats wouldn't work. What about the money? We have joint savings. I've already transferred half to my personal account. That's my money, earned by my labor. You can take the other half. Only half? You think you're entitled to more, after a month of idleness and lies? Rodrigo fell silent, understanding Alicia was right. Dolores gathered her things and headed for the door. Are you going with your mother? Alicia asked Rodrigo. Where else am I supposed to go? He answered bitterly. Look for a job, rent a place, get your life together, like normal people do. Rodrigo grabbed his bag and followed his mother. Alicia, he paused in the doorway. What if you regret this? What if you realize you were wrong? I won't. I've seen who you really are. That won't change. What if I change? Find a job, become a different man? Rodrigo, you showed your true face. You're capable of deceit, manipulation, and parasitism. I don't want people like that in my life. He nodded and left the bedroom. A few minutes later, Alicia heard the front door close. Left alone in her apartment, Alicia felt a strange mix of relief and exhaustion. A month of lies and manipulation was over. Now she was free. But there was no joy, only the bitter realization that 5 years of marriage had been a lie. The man she loved had been willing to betray her for his own comfort. Alicia sat on the sofa and thought about the future. Yes, it hurt to realize she'd been wrong about her husband. But she would cope. She had a good job, her own home, reliable friends, and most importantly, self-respect. She hadn't let herself be turned into a victim of someone else's manipulation. She pushed back and defended her right to a dignified life. Of course, a divorce lay ahead, with its own complications. Rodrigo might try to contest something in court, but Alicia was ready. She had proof of his deceit and good lawyers. A week later, Alicia learned from mutual acquaintances what happened next. Rodrigo really did move in with his mother and started looking for work. But after a scandalous firing, finding a new position wasn't so easy. Many employers knew about his conflict with Cruz and didn't want to deal with a troublesome employee. Dolores also ran into problems. Used to living comfortably at someone else's expense, she struggled with the return to reality. Her pension barely covered a modest existence, and the beauty salons were out of the question. Then something interesting came out by chance. Alicia ran into Dolores's neighbor at the supermarket. Alicia, how are you? Is your mother-in-law at home? I haven't seen her around. Dolores doesn't live with us anymore, Alicia replied. Oh, I see. Probably tired of the city hustle. Funny, though she was so eager to move to the city. Move? But she lives in the city. No, Dolores is from the village. She lived there all her life and only moved to the city a year ago. Said she wanted to be closer to her son, and the city life appealed to her. Alicia was stunned. So her mother-in-law had moved to the city only a year earlier, yet Rodrigo had told her his mother had lived in the city all her life. Does she still have a house in the village? Alicia asked. Of course. A good, large house. She wanted to rent it out, but it didn't work out. She'll probably go back now. So that was it. Dolores had her own house in the village, something she could rent for extra income. But instead she preferred to leech off her daughter-in-law. This information finally convinced Alicia she'd done the right thing. Dolores wasn't a poor, helpless pensioner, but a calculating woman who simply wanted to live at someone else's expense. The divorce went quickly and without much trouble. Rodrigo tried to claim a share of the apartment, but the court rejected his claims. Alicia had inherited the apartment before the marriage. There was nothing to divide. Alicia gained her official freedom and the chance to start a new life. Work was satisfying, the international department was thriving. Colleagues respected her professionalism, and management valued her results. Her personal life gradually settled, too. 6 months after the divorce, Alicia met an interesting man, Diego, an architect. He was independent and successful, a man who valued not only beauty in a woman but also intellect and determination. With Diego, there was no need to pretend to be weak and helpless. He admired her career achievements and supported her professional ambitions. It was an equal relationship where each could remain themselves. Alicia realized what a huge mistake her first marriage had been. She tried to be a convenient wife, adjusted to others' expectations, sacrificed her own interests for the sake of a false family harmony, and nearly became the victim of someone else's manipulation. Now she knew, true love doesn't demand sacrifices and compromises that harm yourself. A true partner supports you, not suppresses you. And if you have to choose between a relationship and self-respect, the choice is obvious. As for Rodrigo, things didn't go well. He never did find a good job. His scandalous reputation followed him everywhere. In the end, he had to accept a low-paid position at a small firm. The salary barely covered basic expenses. Life with his mother brought no joy either. Dolores constantly reproached him for losing such a profitable wife. She blamed him for the collapse of their shared plans and didn't hide her disappointment. A year after the divorce, Rodrigo tried to contact Alicia. He sent a long message apologizing for the past and asking for a chance to make things right, promising to find a good job, become a different man, earn forgiveness. Alicia read the message and deleted it without replying. The past was the past, and she had no wish to return to it. She had a new life, new plans, a new relationship. There was no place for Rodrigo in it. Sometimes she thought about how easily she could have become a victim of their manipulation. If she hadn't overheard those conversations by chance, if she hadn't dared to check her suspicions, she might still be supporting two parasites and thinking it was normal. This story taught her a lot: trust, but verify. Don't fear conflict when principles are at stake. And never sacrifice your dignity for someone else's comfort. Alicia Garcia built a new life on the ruins of the old one, and it was far better, more honest, and happier than what came before.
If you're enjoying it as well, leave a like and subscribe to the channel.